Says I'm live. Hey, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Munson Steve, for Rolling Out News Report. The protest and the uprising, hey, Nia, are going strong, and our country is only getting stronger. That is the country of African Americans. We now see ourselves with a larger pride, and I do not want us to deter the strength that we are experiencing right now amongst ourselves. We are led by spiritual leaders. We are led by individual activists. We are led by journalists from all across the country. This evening, we want to discuss the possibilities of the world we now can create for ourselves as African Americans. The world we can create for ourselves, being responsible for our futures and be able to detail to the community that has oppressed us for so long the important facts that are often omitted when they have celebrity conversations versus conversations with African Americans that are leading us spiritually through this oppression and experiencing and speaking to the souls of our community, and individuals who are community activists because they are proud and know that we all can be better and will do better if we have a collective agenda. I am joined by Terry Shropshire, my co-host, and we want to welcome Reverend Williams. How are you?
Unmute yourself there.
I'm doing well, and you, brother Steve.
Brother Steve is here. I got my dear sister Nia Miranda, which I already spoke to. She is a true soldier in this transition of our new identity as a African American community with a collective agenda. I say that at Rolling Out because we do not want to hear the agenda that will not celebrate all African Americans. We do not want you to have one or two, or even the Wendy's guy that decided he was going to have a few to give to. 500,000 for somebody who owns 800 Wendy's. That is impossible. That you think for 500,000 we're going to eat and dine at Wendy's or Taco Bell. All organizations should return the money. It is an affront to our intelligence. So I say this, that the world we should anticipate here at Rolling Out News, we want us to understand collectively that we must bargain for the principles of our community, not the principles of our individual pockets. So with that, Nia, how are you?
You know, I'm doing all right today. Today was an interesting day, jumping back and forth from the funeral of George Floyd and watching also Ahmaud Arbery's case today. So I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling like it's some work that needs to be done. That's how I feel.
All right. Reverend, Dallas is experiencing change. You guys are often on the forefront. We are definitely praying for you guys. Bring us up to speed on where Dallas is during this protest and how the faith leaders are leading the community at this moment.
Yeah, this past Sunday, we all came together on the front steps of our police headquarters. Mark Cuban, as well as our police chief Hall, were in attendance as well, and we had leaders from both white and black churches, as well as other denominations and faiths there with us. And at the end of the day, we just feel like if this is going to move forward, if we're going to make a difference, then the church is just like it has always been, has to be at the forefront of it. Tensions are still high here. We still haven't gotten over Bolton John's death. We still haven't gotten over, some other things that we've had going on here in our city, but we are making progress. And someone once asked the question, how do you eat an elephant? And the response is simply one piece at a time. And so having those type of conversations, as well as um, holding our leaders accountable, but not only that, but partnering with them and creating police oversight, you know, organizations has really helped us to start moving forward. But we have a long way to go.
Well, I noticed that you mentioned the individuals in attendance. For those who don't know what you're trying to get over in Dallas, why don't you bring them up to speed on what and how the impact and who actually has, been a part of being the injury of your city? Because we're not just marching. There've been some casualties of movement.
Yeah. As I think through, just where we are, and I pastor the oldest African American church in the city of Dallas. And so we have a lot of firsts that have happened at the New Hope Baptist Church. But as we think through, from, police officers and some of the things that they've done, it's been critical for us to be able to sit down at the table. Now, some of the issues we're having now are just from persons that we're finding that are not even from our city, who's responsible for the looting and the tearing up of our city. So we will not tolerate that. But we are having very, not just meaningful conversations with our chief, but she has literally gotten out there and walked with us, protested with us. And of course, she's the first African-American, well, she's the first female we've had. And of course, she's African-American. So she catches flack just by the fact of her sex, as well as, and then she's an officer. But we have just come to the conclusion that, and as I speak to my white brothers who are clergy, if this is going to change, the white church is going to have to make that happen. We've done all that we can do. And so we're now out calling our white brothers and sisters and saying, we need you to now use your privilege to help us to move the envelope, to help us to move the systemic racism, to help us to move the police brutality forward. And some of the issues that we're coming up with is that some just are afraid to do it because they'll lose parishioners. You lose parishioners, that means you lose tithes and offerings, which also means you lose influence. So while we have had some to do it, and we are making some headway, we still got a ways to go. And I'll talk more about that on the back end probably. But that's where we are in Dallas. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of ticked off folks. And even I've tried to figure out what to say, and I couldn't from a social media standpoint. And so I just took the pulpit on Tuesday, put my robe on, went to my pulpit, and I just read the letter to from the Birmingham jail, because I didn't want to get out on Facebook and social media, Instagram, and cuss out folks, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say some mean, ugly things, because here we are. It's a new day, but the same issues. And I said, so I want America to hear what Dr. King had to say over 50 years ago and see if we had any progress at all. And the conclusion is we've had very, very little. So while we will not quit, while we will not stop, we know that our white brothers and sisters have to take the lead if we're going to have systemic change and hold our president accountable for his actions and his race instigating.
Well, that's a whole lot for a mouthful that we're talking, and Nia is there. Terry Shropshire, change in our community. How do we collectively think about a truth that we can actually reference as we move forward? Because I listened to Reverend Jakes on ABC, and I'm a little concerned that we're not talking by numbers, but we'll get back to that.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that he brought up Martin Luther King Jr., because he often said that two things that were very important as it relates to this particular issue in this day and time. Number one, the most segregated hour of the week is Sunday service.
That's right.
And so it's incumbent upon our white brethren to take the lead on this. We don't need a whole bunch of white folks, God bless you, but we don't need a whole bunch of them to join our organizations where it is safe and they can just say, hey, we're down with the cause. No, they need to take that message back to their fellow white brethren and explain to them why the stance that they have is unjust and why this country cannot continue to move forward with that particular stance. And so I think that that I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's the way it has to do, because we have been in the business of trying to solve America's problems, and white people are looking for our leaders to save them, when it's not the oppressed business. It's not the business of the oppressed to make changes and to save America. It is the business of the people who are in the privileged positions to go ahead and make the moves to help move this forward, because we've done the work. We're out there on the streets. So please don't come to us saying, yes, we're down with your cause. Please take that message back to your community, back to your churches, back to your corporations, back to your organizations.
Well, I think just for a collective, and Nia, you were going to say something, so I'm going to let my sister from LA. I love your wall. I love what you're channeling over there, the flowers. I think that's a great backdrop. I need to add some books to my back. I don't think I'm adding flowers anytime soon. Maybe.
Well, they keep me smiling. But I want to touch on what Pastor Williams said, because it's so interesting that you said that the white churches would need to step up. So since my video has went viral, I've gotten so many messages and DMs from people from all over the world. But specifically last night, I got a DM from a white pastor in Sacramento. And he said, sister, I saw your video, and I have to admit, for a long time, I was a part of the All Lives Matter crowd. I didn't understand it. And after I saw your video, it opened my eyes. And now I want to see how I can do whatever I can to help the cause. And I told him, well, it starts with you teaching. If you are a pastor, that means you have a flock, right? You're a leader, and your sheep will follow where the leader goes. So be that shepherd that teaches your sheep the proper understanding of what's going on in the world, so that they can start going to their homes and teaching the people in their homes the same thing. But also, I believe as a Black community, it's important for us to be collective. It's important for us to be unified and go to the world as a unified community, instead of being a broken community expecting the world to accept us as whole. And I think if we can start there, with not just in our churches coming together, but also in our families, it's a financial thing that we have to do. If we can start taking the Black dollar back and funneling that in our communities, the stronger we are as a community, the more someone will want to help us, and not help us off of pity, but help us from respect.
I love what you said. I think collectively, TJ, we can hear you. Collectively, we've got to make some big decisions as a community. I think there are about 100 pillars, Reverend. Nia, I think there are about another 10 inside industries that we need to have collective numbers to really begin to communicate in numbers, numerical objectives as a community. Whenever you can't see your KPIs, key performance indicators, it becomes a real issue for a community. And we have to begin to measure. So how can we tolerate and accept Facebook at 5% African Americans and we make up 30% Instagram? So I think we really have to work on numbers, team, pastor, Reverend, more so than we do on concept. Because this concept of healing, I can't heal broke. Maybe somebody else can heal broke. I can't heal broke. I don't want Black churches to put money in white banks that give us PP money last. We're the last to get the PPP.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to really measure our behavior in nuances, like we have during this pandemic. You watch where you put your hands. You make sure you put something on your face. In our recycling, I am very much with you, but we have no quotas as a people as it relates to demand of Family Dollar. What is our ask of Family Dollar, Reverend? What are we asking of them? What is our ask of Nike as it relates to Black colleges? The scholarships. What is our number for a company that makes 50 to 100 billion with our community? What is our ask? And so I think that's the challenge that can derail our progress, because if we can't measure our progress in dollars and cents and dollars in jobs and dollars in loans, then dollars of companies taken public, then we'll lose again in dollars in home ownership. We cannot have zero KPIs as a movement for this country. Why don't we watch this video? Because I want the community to see what a soldier looks like in Los Angeles.
I want you to know this is not.
Don't police people's way of
Let me tell you this.
themselves.
This is not a Black woman who's put in Black Lives Matter. I just want you to know that when. Right, but y'all doing that for us, and we ain't asked you to do that. Listen, don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame Black people for this, and Black people didn't do it.
There's a Black person.
But
We did.
if we wanted you to do it, we would have asked. They not gonna show y'all faces when they see that on their building. They gonna blame that on us. Y'all are part of the problem. News come on, they gonna say we did that. We didn't do that. Stuff like this ain't right. Stuff like this ain't right. That's what the problem is. We out here standing together peacefully, protesting without any problems. You got people of all races spraying on buildings talking about Black Lives Matter. That ain't even us. You got police officers coming to a peaceful protest spraying gas on us. We ain't even did nothing. Don't let the media fool you. When they see the vandalism on these places, know that it wasn't us. And when you see stuff like that, you're supposed to stand up and say something. Don't spray on these people's buildings.
I am so proud. I'm glad. I was holding back the tears, Nia. I'm literally. I say that in non-just. It touches every time I hear the. You know, emotionally, you think about, Reverend, how we all come and take our prayers to a higher power in secrets. And when I heard her voice, I'm sure when, your parishioners come and have to share their pain with you in confidence, I can hear her voice. Like I'm talking, and I hope you listening, God, because I'm saying something to her, and she could take out a gun. I just don't even know who this girl is. She's masked, and she could blend in, and then every time I hear her say comrade, I'm like, well, when's the last time somebody said comrade to you? Terry, comrade? Have you heard comrade?
No, I don't hear comrade. Not only that, it was the arrogance of those agent provocateurs. The fact that they stood there and didn't back up, and that they were pointing at you and saying, like, calm down, little girl. We got this. We know what we're doing. So just fall back, go back and play, and we got this. And saying it was the arrogance of them in perpetrating that agent provocateur activity that got me. That's what touched me, was the fact that they were so arrogant about it.
That's that privilege. That's that privilege.
That's beyond privilege. I want us to stop saying they play a playbook. There is a playbook. It's past privilege. It is part of the entire economic plan. Like, they left their house with the intention of destroying our image and maligning the movement.
Yeah.
And they didn't even have the courage to show their faces. So when they blended back out, nobody went right behind them. And we've got to share this. This is what Starbucks should know. They put it on Starbucks. And then put Black Lives Matter. Didn't even care. Just knew they were intentionally leaving. So they're leaving with a plan. They're leaving their home with a plan and weapons. That is a weapon to destroy. That is a weapon to make others believe we're vandals, destroying our image. And we've got to measure that. Because the impact that that has, not only will they say that it was us, they're going to say it was them. They start speaking in the thems. And we're the thems, Reverend. When you see that, Reverend, what do you think? Have you ever met Nia, your sister?
I've never met her. I think I need to go to LA. I've got family there and I like to golf there. So I'll be making a trip there soon. I'm gonna be driving though. I don't trust airplanes right now. So you know, to see that video and to hear the backdrop of what happened, you know. So I've spent 15 years as a higher education administrator, most recently vice president of a college in West Virginia, flying back and forth. Let me talk about education for a moment and how the way we're raised and reared, it's apparent that there's some intentionality there with those young ladies. Like you said, they went there intentionally to do that and to point the blame at us. It's two things. It's both shameful and sinful. And how do you utter the words "enough is enough"? It's already difficult knowing that we start with white people already 10 steps ahead of us. And now, as we try to make some progress in this country, we still have those who want to perpetuate the evil that is still apparent in our world. And we all know that's learned behavior. Some grandmother, some grandfather, some group, somebody that they connected with taught them that. How old do you think they were? Under 30?
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, they were under.
And so when we look at systemic racism that we have in this country, it's the ignorance of persons who feel like they're doing harm by doing evil acts like this, and at some point we have to hold folks accountable. But this is the other side of the. So we talk about speaking truth to power, being prophetic, hearing the clarion call of God. But if we don't show up at the booth and vote and get leaders out of office who stand publicly and continue to spew this kind of hate, we will continue. I mean, it didn't just happen. Donald Trump been crazy since Obama got elected, starting with the whole birther movement. So we have been plagued with this kind of overt racism since 2008. Brothers and sisters, we've got to get to the vote. We've got to get to the polls. We've got to vote. Millennials, you want to see change? We got to go vote.
I'm with you, Reverend, but we've got to have a set of KPIs that are very.
I agree.
The requests that outline detailed corporations, ask for transparency on their spending. Yep. How many companies of African American ownership, not lookalikes, because we got a lot of grafty lookalikes.
Yeah,
we really have to be clear and intentional. How much collaboration and investment? You know, when you talk about a company that might be doing $800 billion, $1 billion sound like a lot.
Right.
When you never had 500,000 in the bank, then all of a sudden 500,000 sound like a lot.
Right.
So we've got to determine when our principles collectively cannot be purchased. And I think we have to say it loudly. We have to say it louder than we have ever said how intentional and collective we need to be. Yeah. And that needs to be a litmus test that we can place on all of our influencers, and leaders.
Yes, I completely agree because you know what? Bank of America yesterday released out a statement that they were giving like $1 billion away to the Black community. And everyone was happy. They were, clapping their hands. Yes, yes, yes. We love Bank of America. Thank you. But then when you see that they've charged you, they made $1.7 billion from overdraft fees and all of these fees. They're really just giving you your money back. So they really didn't give us anything other than what they took from us. And I think that we as a people, we just have to get educated. We have to educate our millennials because they're willing to go out on the front lines and do certain things that, some of our elders aren't, it's not their place to do right now. But it is their place to mentor those young people who have that fire inside of them, but they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
We can use that fire. Don't extinguish it. What I see a lot of people trying to do is extinguish the fire in our young people, and it shouldn't be. Please let it blaze and burn somebody off of contact, but it just has to be focused. And I think if we can come together and have more meetings, weekly, monthly, meetings where we can put the right education in them, then at least when you go out there with that fire, we know that it's for a specific cause and it's burning the right stuff up instead of burning down all the buildings.
Yeah, it's some good stuff really going to happen. I know Rolling Out is doing a whole voter education and movement education in June and July. So I'm looking forward to the Rolling Out educational training in both how to organize and how to create cells within communities so that we can move forward. Terry, you have often been there to report on the challenges that our community face economically. How can we make progress in this moment of, to outline for corporations what they can do to make our community have a stake in what they're winning with?
Well, first of all, before we can go to them, we must begin to gird ourselves with education in regards to what has been going on in the past. I think that Nia spoke upon it in terms of the playbook, in terms of the consistencies of what they've done in the past about placating us and pacifying us with menial, rewards for being quiet or for being silent. And so when we're educated about what they've done in the past, and we can go, we're better equipped to go to them collectively and to demand some things about what is their responsibility into the community from which they have derived their vast wealth. And so we have to be educated, first of all, about what they've done recently and long in the past, and then we can go to them and talk to them a little bit from a position of power and in a position of education, and not be so happy, as Nia said, when they give us little trinkets and doodads. We start to jump and rejoice, but that's really nothing because they've stolen what they're giving back to us. So I think that's the first thing that we need to do is to get education. We have to educate ourselves on what's been going on.
And I'm going to say this, Terry and Nia, it's a number. Like literally at the end of the day, they used to say, "Oh, you don't need quotas. Oh, it's no, give us the black pie. We don't want to know about the multicultural."
Yes.
At that point, that's we don't want to know about one way. We don't need that because that's when y'all throwing us these signals and doing that Jedi mind trick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we call.
They're very good at that. No.
Yeah, subterfuge.
Yeah. So they're good at that. I want us collectively to have a number and to be able to ask for transparency in the spending as it relates to our community and hiring goals that are clear and our commitments. And do not have any Negroes in the room that work there that don't have a budget. We do not need any more diversity and inclusion people that don't have huge budgets.
That's that empty and hollow rhetoric that we hear.
Because all of a sudden you make them the diversity chief and they have no budget. We know that is a trick bag.
There's no power, no influence.
And we need to make sure that we mandate their spending that we can see, or you're just giving us more rhetoric.
And you know what else I'd like to see, especially from banking corporations? Instead of just deciding to put the money into the community and we don't know specifically where it's going, I would like to see it go towards not just college funds for HBCUs, because I want to funnel money there, but for credit repair for all of us. Because I believe if we had credit repair in our community, I think that we would be able to now get business loans. Do you know how difficult it is for a Black person in America to get a business loan, but someone from another country can come here and get a business loan like that? They'll give us a loan for cars because it'll keep you in debt. They may give you a loan for a house, but business loans, if we are able to get our credit to a certain stature so we can have business loans, then we can build our own communities and we don't have to ask for handouts with other people's communities. We can have the grocery stores in our communities. We can have the gas stations in our communities, so we can stop funneling our money to other people and we can keep it between ourselves. And I think that's something that's really important.
I don't know. You from Detroit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You go ahead. You go ahead, young lady.
But you
You
know,
what I'm talking about?
No, but I
So-
think you're from Detroit, right?
Mhm.
And we know how many gas stations we own in Detroit.
Yes.
So I think the collaboration for me. I think the collaboration. I'm not sure all of us need to be in business.
All of us
I
don't.
think the class. I think enough classes. I'm with you. I want you
But
to
think about
understand.
how many, I want to say this. Think about how many of our young brothers are doing major business in the drug game and probably some of the most intelligent businessmen ever, but they're not given that freedom to know that the same game that you're doing here, you can do it in this way and probably become more successful if you had that backing and that understanding and the knowledge and the mentoring. I think we do have some people, even young brothers and sisters, who could get the job done, but they don't even see it as a possibility.
No, we're both saying the same thing. My hope is always for young brothers and sisters. There's not a day that I don't hope for a win for a young brother and sister. I don't think that's not even in the brand rolling out that young brothers and sisters don't win. I do think there are how do we collectively, when I say collective, I'm talking huge. Like 800 at a time franchises.
Mm-hmm.
You need the lockup, the lockbox, so that if you have it, you don't touch it. It pays all your bills, then you get the money. It's a lot of collective thinking that we'll have to have in order to mention. It's rolling out news report, and we are so proud to have Nia Miranda and my dear Reverend of the oldest African American church in Dallas, Reverend Damian Williams, and my co-host Terry Shropshire. Thanks to all the people on Facebook and Twitter for joining the Rolling Out News Hour. I had to give us a little break, they said. But I think that, Reverend, we need our spiritual leaders too to have those same KPIs, because our health disparities right now in the pandemic, which we're all in, we are going to have to see the evolution, kind of like church began to be transmitted and broadcast, and it probably will be the first line of defense for health in the future. I would anticipate it might also transform itself even to educational institutions of some sort, given the community need. And I think at some point we'll have to own some telecommunication platform for educating ourselves. So what do you anticipate the future services and evolution of the church?
Yeah, like I was talking about earlier, right there on the front lines, because we have the voice, we have the influence, just like the 50s and 60s during the civil rights movement. In the majority of our communities, the Black church is still that pillar. It's still that voice. Other than Gen Z, who really is growing up without being introduced to God, the millennials are, but the millennials want authentic religion, authentic Jesus, if you would. And if they feel like you're fake, they will not have anything to do with you. So consequently, we have to be able to put, number one, get them involved in ministry. Number two, as Neil said earlier, don't quench their fire. They are raging, but help them to channel it for the better causes.
But I
So
guess
some of the
my
things we're doing,
question, Reverend,
okay,
is,
go ahead.
because my question is, and I'm really giving it, we at the point where we've got, based on this pandemic, how many blood pressure machines are in every church?
Right.
How many glucose tracking machines are in every church? How many people know a good blood pressure from a bad blood pressure? How many people know how much water to drink based on their weight? How many people know how many steps at the church? How many people walk at church? How many times do we say walk all the pews, so you can know if you walk all the pews after prayer meeting for 20 minutes, if everybody walks through all the pews, that we now know that we took 8,000 steps, and you need 10,000 every day. I mean, when I say this, and I'm obviously answering the question and loving you at the same time, like I love all my religious friends who give me hope and insight and counsel. So I'll be calling you, Reverend. I know that there's a new agenda. And I think in terms of health, we need the church to begin to transform our health. It is predicated on us taking full control of our health, catching people in pre-diabetic so they don't become diabetic.
Yes.
I mean, for us, I think we're in a pandemic. We just lost, we're 70% of the deaths. They talk about comorbidity. If we're not changing our behavior and it doesn't start where I find my faith, I might miss. So I need some futuristic forecasting from that Holy Ghost filled man I'm looking at right now.
No, I think it's one pastor, one church at a time. So, for instance, at New Hope, we have a health ministry. We've got 2 blood pressure machines. We don't feed the greasy chicken, and so part of our issue. Yeah. So we don't. I mean, we're not going to do it. But after the benediction, we've got to shut down restaurants and put in some vegan restaurants. Get rid of the soul food that's taking us out, and that's just our reality. We don't have, and the community that I serve, which is South Dallas 75215, we have what we call Tent City, one of the largest homeless populations around. And so we don't have a grocery store, so we're a food desert. So we've got to deal with that issue. So I guess my question is, and I know the answer, I guess, kind of rhetorical, but how do we get and pool our monies together to get stores in our communities, to get banks that we own in our communities, as well as I think it's one church, one pastor at a time. The problem with autonomy is this. For instance, my friends in the CME and the AME can do it easily because they have a structure whereby they've got bishops. But us Baptist churches, and we're the majority, I can want to do it, but I've got 5 churches around me who not trying to hear that. That makes sense? Yeah. And so, it doesn't make sense.
Those are the spiritual principles that I'm saying we've got to erect. We've got to have,
that's what I'm saying.
We've got to have literal 10 KPIs that are very key performance indicators on whether your church loves Black people. We've got to say that. If all you sell is fried chicken after the funeral, there's going to be some more deaths. So we literally got to, and if we're not teaching meal prep, when we sit back and think about it, meal prep will save our community another $1 billion. Just meal prep.
I agree.
And urban gardening. Why don't we grow our own food? I mean, when you think about the Black community, we're horticulturists. We know how to grow. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's a part of who we are, and I don't think that we celebrate it enough. If all the 5 churches in your neighborhood, okay, let's come together collectively buy a lot and let's put our garden on that lot. So we know that everybody in our church, they got some place to get their vegetables at least. You know what I'm saying? And then even with children, you say no. Why you say no, Brother Steve?
I'm really a funny guy. I probably don't have much joking power. I think it's all those things that you're talking about. I think those are goals, though, that you have
Yes.
to put key indicators on so that people can't just keep hearing it. We know the black farmer needs help just like every other person. We know that we've got to have a farming community. We know that we have to provide our food for our community. We know that we've got to be in the vitamin business. Like we in the hair business, we have to take pride. And we have to understand that when a person goes in that business, we've got to make a commitment to support them. I mean, it is a key thing for us to take ownership to the next level and to be in small steps. But just like you're saying, why don't you make at least enough tea or grow enough tomatoes to share to feed a family that's homeless? You don't have to have a whole garden.
That's
I
right.
prefer that you just get you some tomato plants and start small so that you get your knowledge. And then when you and I decide how every city is going to have farming classes, and we're going to have farming classes that we can get right on Facebook. Because I know urban farmers in Houston. There's a young brother there, Chaz Dartry. He's actually been on the show. Chaz has a garden. He teaches gardening. And the first thing he says is, gardens are difficult, gardens are tough, but if you start small, then they grow. And so it's not near that I was saying no to that. I'm saying it's Soul Fit Grill is his company. He makes seasonings, and he's an urban farmer, and he keeps the seasonings with low or no salt in them so that people with high blood pressure or high cholesterol won't have to fight sodium. So I'm with you all
But
the
I
way.
think,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Jim.
no, I just think that there is a need for the church. There has to be an educational process, or else the masses are going to continue to patronize those grease spoon places that have a deleterious effect on their health. So what has to happen is that the churches, I believe, and I'm a PK, so I can speak on this just a little bit, that the churches have to be involved in the education of our health and why it's important to alter our health so that we will not shut down the grease spoons, but demand that they alter their menu so that they can serve a type of dishes that are beneficial to our people, and also help to educate us about what Nia was talking about in terms of gardens. So I think that the church could be an integral part of the educational and edification process that will help us to become healthier people. And then, like you said, you have the blood pressure machines in there. You have some of the things that have to do with health. So I think these things combine, but I think the church plays an integral part in that.
Yeah, well, I agree, and I want Reverend to speak to that point, but I want everybody in the church to know what a good blood pressure is.
Yeah.
See, because after you leave there and the Reverend is chest you, but you may not be taking a log of your blood pressure. I want everybody to understand what a good blood pressure is. I want them to know what a good glucose number is for diabetes. I wanted them to know, Terry, and all of our people, even down to our children, how much water they should be drinking every day. And I think that gives us a numerical way of measuring our behavior. Because if we're not going to measure our behavior, old habits, greasy food tastes good. Like that bacon you eat, Terry.
Well, every once in a while, I mean, and that's just the thing. And that's exactly the key. When you eat right and you live right, then you can have those things where you reward yourself with what they call guilty pleasures. You know what I'm saying? Every once in a while, once a month, once every 3-4 months, twice a year, you might have a barbecue in the backyard with the family. But the rest of the year, you're living right. So I think that this is very, very key. And I think the church and other institutions in our community can play a big role in helping that to come about. So that is my position on that.
Yeah, I agree. And it does start, as I said, one church, one congregation at a time. And we have, and it shouldn't just be the mega church. It needs to be, because most of our churches are 100 members or less. And that's where it has to be. And so I am looking, Brother Munson, to have more conversations with you because part of our issue, just like now, as you can see behind me, we're getting ready to, I'm in Collin County, although my church is in Dallas County. We're getting ready to deal with some of these issues tonight as we pray as a community. And it's all of that. But who's taking this lead? It's the Black church. And that, I showed you this on purpose, but it's majority of white folks out here. Although the Black church is taking the lead. And for whatever reason, folks in our community don't see a need to be here. And although Collin County is majority Anglo, it's the Black church again that's taking the lead in this prayer gathering and one of the white on the steps of one of the whitest courthouses in America, right here in McKinney, Texas, in Collin County. Do the research, is there. And so it's the church who's going to have, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's who we are. That's the fabric of our being. It's all my brothers from the nation or whatever religion, but it's going to have to be those of us who are of a religious sect, a religious whatever, who's going to have to take, because two things we hate to talk about, that's my religion and my politics, right? But the Black church has always taken the forefront in that, and I agree wholeheartedly with Brother Terry said, and we've got to continue to educate. Now, New Hope is different though, y'all. We do all of what you're talking about. We're now trying to figure out how can we go to the churches around the corner from us and teach them the same things to our other brothers and sisters. So that's part of our dilemma is, of course, we can't bust the door down, but we do have some things that we're trying to do as a community. We've got different organizations that we're leading, but we need the right folks to be at the table. And oftentimes in our meetings, they just aren't there.
Yeah, that's where the KPIs come in, because when they begin to see when they begin to see your church and other churches like you in the community on a regular basis, and you're teaching them why you should be in the community and feeding our congregation emotionally, spiritually, and holistically from a comprehensive standpoint, then other people are going to demand from the churches around your corner, why aren't you out in the community? Yeah. I'm seeing New Hope out here, but I'm not seeing your church, and I'm not seeing your church, and I'm not seeing your church, but I see you driving a Cadillac, and I see you living in Beverly Hills, or the equivalent. You in Beverly Hills, but your congregation is in the ghetto.
It's in the hood.
It's in the hood. You know, you in South Central, but you live in Beverly Hills, but the people is down in the hood. So that is where I'm at, is that when you start to see people in the community and you start to enact change in the community, then naturally, progressively, people are going to demand the same thing from the other churches in the community. And if they don't, then there's going to be consequences, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
We know you got to step out. We don't want you to be a stranger to rolling out news. We want you to continue to help. So it's important. I mean, I think that what you're doing is phenomenal, and we've got to take God everywhere. And so I'm glad you're out there. They need to see it. We'll catch our brothers up when we actually come back, and then we'll start busting out there. But right now, we'll let you test the waters on that courthouse step and pray for change, because we do believe in change, and we do believe in prayer. And we thank you for all that you give, because I know that even being a pastor is a very thankless job. They don't thank you for visiting the sick, but I do. They don't thank you for actually administering to those funerals for the unchurched children that you and husbands and boyfriends that you have to pray over, who had no relationship, but you have to be there. So it is a thankless job, and it is 24/7, 365. So I don't know if anybody said thank you, but I do want to thank you, because if it hadn't been for you, there are many who would not have love or would not have at least closure to their experiences in this very dramatic life before we all go see God. So thank you very much for rolling out.
Bless you. Thank you, brother. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Reverend.
All right. Thank you. Miss Neil, we're going to have to connect.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, y'all. Let me
All
get
right.
out here and go protest and pray. Y'all take care now.
Protest and pray. That's
Yes.
that PPP. Protest and pray. All right.
Yes, sir. All right. Y'all be good now. All right.
All right, take care.
Nia,
Yes.
did you tell your T-shirt young lady that you were on the show with her shirt on?
I did, and you know what? She's sending me some more shirts. So
What? You tell her to reach out for me so she can come on my show.
I absolutely will.
Entrepreneurs, Terry, you can get her number. I am so, when I just heard your voice, it was one of those moments that I just, in hearing the squeaking, the clink, I just heard it. I'm like, she was hurt. She was hurt.
Yeah.
She was hurt.
But I'm grateful for that hurt, because that hurt sparked my fire again. It let me know that it's something very strong that I'm connected to, and that I have a responsibility to my community, and I can't run from that. You know, I was on a phone with one of our fair skin allies earlier, and she asked me, well, Nia, can you tell me when this is going to stop? When can we just go back to how things were? I said, well, I know you probably aren't trying to be disrespectful, but what I will tell you is I hope we never go back to the way things are. I hope that 2020 changes our lives forever. And a lot of people want to cancel this year because of how much has happened. But honestly, I think that this is what we needed in order to really regroup and to have those KPIs that you're talking about, and have the conversations, and to get the numbers down, and stop having frivolous conversations with things that's in the air, but actually hold on to something of some substance and then put action into it. So I'm grateful for the pain, because the pain is creating a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that we're gonna look back on this as a watershed year, like one of those years that you don't forget, like 1965, the Voting Rights Act, 1968, the year that Dr. King and Robert Kennedy were assassinated, and the turmoil at the Democratic National Convention. Years like that, we're going to look back at 2020 as a year where we turned the corner, where there was a permanent paradigm shift in America, and yes, things will never be the same again. You know, saying just like with the coronavirus, just like with 9/11, things have never been the same since 9/11. You can't walk up to a plane anymore. You can't just walk up in a plane and drop your people off like I did before 9/11. So the 2020, yeah, you're exactly right. 2020 is going to provide a permanent change. And what we have to do is to ensure that we cultivate and nurture this energy, and and make sure it goes in the right direction, that we get the change that we're looking for, and then we never go back to the way it was. Because what she's really saying, when y'all gonna be quiet? When y'all gonna shut up?
That's what she was saying. Yeah. They arrested the guys. Aren't y'all happy?
Right.
We've seen arrests before. Let's see a conviction. And then let's see a sentencing. And then we have a whole slew of people that we still have to fight justice for. So I told her, I said, the boycott for buses back in the 60s, I said, that was 381 days, if I'm not mistaken, they boycotted.
Yeah, almost an entire,
the commitment they had. We have to have the same commitment to this, just like Brother Steve was saying. Get the numbers, be committed to them, and get the job done. And that's what time it is. And I'm happy to be on this side of it. I'm happy to be on the side of I'm ready to, commit to the action of everything.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the other thing that it illustrated was lack of tolerance. You didn't let them pass. We let a lot of things pass. We ignore a lot of things you say in your meetings. We just let it pass. I think it was your moment. You just didn't let it pass.
I've never let a moment pass. And I tell my friends that I've had some disagreements with my friends because they allow moments to pass. And I believe as a Black person or an African in America, I think that every time we come against those moments where we could allow them to pass, we are supposed to stand up right then and there, because allowing them to pass is allowing them to think that it's okay. And it's not. It's not.
Right.
And you can't complain about wanting change and you want to be free, but you continue to be complacent in your victimhood or being complacent in bondage. It don't feel good. So you got to say something. That's all of our responsibilities. I'm happy that I was able to be the catalyst of it, but that responsibility falls on all of us.
Right. And while it is good to get justice for these particular individual families, it's woefully insufficient, because what we need to do is create an environment and an atmosphere by which these things don't happen again in the future. So, and sometimes there's pain going through that. You have to be inoculated. Like when you go to the doctor, it hurts to get a shot, but you feel better afterwards. So you have to get inoculated with the right, you know what I'm saying? So that you can be getting better. And that's what we're doing right now. So while it was a little painful for you to stand there and watch those people desecrate, buildings, and then, knowing that it was going to be blamed on us, but like you said, you're better off because of it. And so that's the thing that we have to look at moving forward. That it might hurt a little bit, might pinch, but we're end up going to be better in the future for it.
I think as we talk about future, Nia, what in the future do you think we can do immediately? Because our future is right tomorrow. What can we do immediately to get the conversation going? Share your video. Who shot that video?
I did.
Okay.
Video from my phone.
So when you were there walking with your phone, have you begun to write your book, The Experience of They Won't Blame Us? They Will Blame Us?
I haven't started to write the book, but I have a film that has been, growing inside of me that I am ready to birth. And I think it's going to be monumental in changing that old way of our thinking. I think that it will put the onus on our white allies and make them ship up or shape out, like get it together. If you're gonna be an ally, be a real ally, not a silent one, not a fake one, not one behind closed doors. It's time for everybody to put the work in. And so I think that the film that I have is gonna really shake some things up, and I can't wait. I'm excited about it.
That was a film that you had. It was just a short.
Yeah.
Shot. And it really demonstrated courage that many people don't have and are choosing not to have. I don't want to judge my brothers and sisters other than for them to understand that there are traps that they're setting with looting, because they're literally coming to find a lot of young brothers and sisters who thought it was free goods.
Yeah.
It was a free moment. There are some that aren't going to let that pass, and the injury that they may have self-inflicted, I'm concerned with. But I want people to live their moment, live your moment the way you need to live it, and be careful as you move forward. What have your other friends said once they saw you out of Detroit?
There go Nia. That's Nia. It's funny, people that I met.
High school in Detroit?
Yes, I went to Cass Tech.
You and all the famous people from Cass Tech, I knew it.
Yeah, I went to Cass Tech. I'm very proud of my high school. And, they just said that's the same Nia that's always been there. People from my elementary is like, when Nia used to stand up and say stuff to the teachers, like, I've always had a voice. I've always had a voice. I've gotten in trouble from my voice a lot of times, but I never allowed that to make me shut up. I won't be muted, and I think that if you have something to say, then you should use your voice. I'm grateful though for platforms like Rolling Out, because this is how we do come together. This is how we can start that conversation and start implementing, actual plans. Because the reason why the church is so important in the Black community is because it's one of the few organizations that meets weekly. You meet weekly. If we had organizations that you have that responsibility to meet weekly, I remember feeling bad when I was younger. Even now, if I'm not at church on Sunday, I know my grandma is gonna be like, "Why you not at church? What's going on?" You know what I'm saying? It's the feeling of, I know I can't miss this. And that's the reason why the church has so much power, because the community knows they can't miss a Sunday. We have to create that same community when it comes to pushing forward our culture. Definitely Jesus for sure, but the Black culture, the Black community. We have to have that same feeling of, I gotta be there. I have to be tuned in and rolling out at least once a week. I have to, because I know I'm going to get my message. I know they're going to give me something that's going to help me with what it is that I need in my life. We have to put that into our people like that.
So,
Absolutely. Oh, we encountered a little technical difficulty, but we're back on par.
I like that. You know, zoom, baby. You know, you got to zoom. When you're sitting here on the Rolling Out News Report, we are joined by Mia Miranda, and she is joining us from LA, and I'm with my co-host Terry Shropshire. He is the first King James, and he is in Akron, Ohio today.
Okay, that was funny. I'm actually in Atlanta.
That's
I'm actually in yeah. But I entered
this virtual world, you know, you sit back and you can be a little everywhere.
Yeah.
So I wanted everyone to know how phenomenal I think this young lady is. We are focused on some very sad moments, and Rolling Out really didn't want to play any funeral messaging because I think enough people have seen that, and I wanted them to see the courage that we want to see continue.
Yes.
I thought the example that you were, Neil, was an example that we want others to understand how to share respectfully, but to protest and defend the uprising. How do we defend the uprising? That's what I saw in suggesting to Amir that he reach out to you, because I wanted our community to see your valor. Is that a word over there, Terry? Valor?
Yes, of course.
You know, Terry's our dictionary at the office and thesaurus, and gives us courage to put words together, but we appreciate all that you do, because it couldn't happen. Now, are your parents alive?
Yes, they are, both of them.
And did they see the video?
They did.
How'd they see it? Where were they when they saw it?
My father, he is a lawyer in Miami, and he's not on social media at all. And he called me and he's like, "Me, I seen this video of you." And I'm like, "What? How did you see it, Dad?" My father's Nigerian, and my other cousins and stuff must have sent him the video, and he was extremely proud, and so was my mother. But my mother, she knows the type of woman she raised. My mom had me watching Roots every, Black History Month for like 7 days. I would have to sit down and watch every single episode. And it was just me knowing that my name means purpose. And I've always known that. So I've had a different responsibility to what I'm supposed to do with my life. And they were proud. And that's the only thing I could really ever want. That's success to me, to know that my family is proud of the woman that I've become and the change that I'm making in the world.
I want you to know this is not. Don't police people's way.
Let me tell you this. This is not a Black woman who's put in Black Lives Matter. I just want you to know that right, but y'all doing that for us, and we ain't asked you to do that. Listen, don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame Black people for this, and Black people didn't do it. Black person. But if we wanted you to do it, we would have asked. They not gonna show y'all faces when they see that on their building. They gonna blame that on us. Y'all are part of the problem. News come on, they gonna say we did that. We didn't do that. Stuff like this ain't right. Stuff like this ain't right. That's what the problem is. We out here standing together peacefully, protesting without any problems. You got people of all races spraying on buildings talking about Black Lives Matter. That ain't even us. You got police officers coming to a peaceful protest spraying gas on us. We ain't even did nothing. Don't let the media fool you.
supposed to stand up and say something. Don't spray on these people's buildings. That's not our message. That's not helping nothing.
Woo! Well, talk about technical difficulties. That was a long one.
Yeah, but you know what that reminded me of, since it was already in California, and I used to be obsessed with this particular group. But you had that Kathleen Cleaver vibe going on. You know what I'm saying, with that afro, and talking and getting on TV and talking about how crazy somebody's acting. You know, Cleaver was talking about the police. You were talking about, well, you were actually talking about an agent of the police, because basically, and basically what was happening, what I saw, is what I've seen, just studying the 60s and studying Marcus Garvey back in the 1920s. Well, actually, it's 100 years ago. This year is 100 years ago for Marcus Garvey. So shout outs to Marcus Garvey and all the Garveyites out there in the world. But anyway, what I saw was almost like a triangulation crossfire, in that we were stuck in the middle. So basically, it wasn't JFK and the shooters or the alleged shooters. Basically, it was us in the middle. You had the police on one side acting crazy. You had the agent provocateurs on another side. And then you had the media basically sculpting up this narrative that we were defacing our own property, that we were the ones that were looting, that we were causing violence, and they are actually doing the violence, and the police are responding to the so-called violence. So then this goes on around, so we're getting hit from three sides. Triangulation crossfire of messiness, and that's what I saw, and that's what that reminded me of. So I'm glad that situations like you, Ava DuVernay, our dear sister, who actually directed Selma. She actually directed I can't think of the movie. I'm sorry.
The 13th Amendment.
The 13th Amendment.
And when they see us.
And when they see us. And so she also posted a video of a white man busting in or trying to bust in the window of a department store, and he got stopped. And so I'm glad that these things are being exposed, because we have been talking about this for years and for decades, about the machinations, the evil machinations, the dastardly deed of these people, basically causing ruckus and then blaming us. And then the police come in to shoot us down or beat us down. And then the media blames us. So I'm glad that these things are getting exposed. And you were one of the people to help do that.
Thank you. And I'm going to keep doing it.
Now, you're a filmmaker. So I think film is definitely one of those mediums that we need more people sharing stories and sharing our stories. And I think that's the beauty of this. And that's why I call it a short. It literally is an instance in which you have somebody and you establish very rather quickly, you're not supposed to be here. You really are not here for us. And the lady just whimsically ignored and had every intention of finishing what she was trained. See, what I saw was somebody who was trained. Had the watcher, and then had the one that was activated. So they had been in training.
Mm-hmm.
She never was concerned with what you were saying. Is our mission being accomplished? I understand what you're saying. Is what we're here to do taking place? I'm never gonna have you'll never know who I am. But she spoke with a foreign accent.
Yeah, I heard a little accent from one of them. The girl who was actually spray painted, she never said one word. And I think that was purposely done. And you are very right. They were trained. And that's the thing with us. I think that's the reason why we have to become more knowledgeable, because we're not as trained as a lot of our assailants. I think that I came for a peaceful protest. The police came with guns out. They came for war. I came to use my voice. They came to spray. And I think that if we understand the war that we're in and the tactics that are used against us, then we have a better opportunity of winning. We have to train. We have to train. It's important.
Training
we
and
got
education.
5 more minutes. Terry, can you and Nia wrap us up?
Well, I just think that we're on the precipice of a new day, a new era, and a new way of thinking and a new way of doing things. I think that something is special about this one. I mean, I think this created a crescendo Things have been simmering and brewing from beneath the surface, but now it's exploded like a volcano. And you know anything about a volcano, you can't put the lava back in. It's out and it's never going to go back in. And so this thing has been televised and has been supported in New Zealand, in Spain, in France, in London. So I think there's something special and different about this. And this signals, this should make people excited, even though we're going through some things with a pandemic and an epidemic of police brutality. This seems like something's different. Something is anew. So we should be excited and want to be a part and take part in the new chapter of America.
I completely agree.
You
I
want
completely
us at Rolling Out News Report, we want you to give us a forecast of this moment and where we are in history and the future.
I think that first I want to say thank you all for having me on your platform again. And I want to leave us with that now is the time to rise. Now is the time for us to use our voice. America has benefited off of our culture, our talents, our skills for far too long. And they usually do not stand up for us in our pain, our grief, and our travesty. And time's up for that. It's time for us to use this time of quarantine to create an actual plan. So once we come out of this, we aren't the same and we don't ever go back to the way things were. We come back better, stronger, and more united than ever. And I honestly believe that that's exactly what will happen. I'm extremely hopeful.
Well, at Rolling Out News Report, I want to thank both you and Terry and Reverend Williams for coming on this evening. We're going to give a 2-minute moment of silence for George Floyd. I was saying his name real quick.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I would like to just take up from where you were coming from, Nia, because you touch my heart when you say that with all that courage that you have for the future. I think that it's really important that we begin to put a platform that is measured if we expect change to be permanent. In that means the demands not only for in categories of education, how will the education be? How many more tradesmen will be? We're going to have to be very granular in how we approach what we do so that collectively we become a much more principled person and a principled people. I think when Terry mentioned Marcus Garvey, there was a united movement and it was at least a centered thought. Everybody could agree. We have to come to places where we all can agree. We don't need to show fractions because we need not people leaders, but we need principle leaders. We need to be led by principles that would be a cohesive measuring device to look at our future. I think it's important that we think about these things in business, in industry, and in responsibility and accountability for every corporation that gets any of our dollars. I think the CMOs and the CEOs need to make commitments that are transparent and stop thinking that pennies are okay and stop having one person running a diversity department and everybody else not look like that person, or have people over diversity groups that have no budget, because that's so empty. We know the plan. And they're corporations who have zeros, don't do business with us at all. The Wendy's of the world, how many African-American media companies do you actually spend dollars with? How many African-American PR firms do you utilize? How many African-American attorneys and accountants do you utilize? We no longer want zeros, and we want real reporting out of these organizations and corporations. And to those other companies who have specialized in representing Black, we want you to move back and stop siphoning off our dollars when we can deliver the same if those individuals weren't just your friends. You know, if you have a 0 day and you haven't had an African American media PR day, you know, it just isn't right. So Nia, I really admire what you're saying. I really want the instruction. I look forward to the movie that is in you, even though you won't tell us that movie. Um,
I'll email it to you. I'll email it to you.
did you go to LA to become a film star?
Yes. Yep. I lived in Atlanta and I did good work there, and I went back to Detroit and did some good work there, but it was time for a big fish to go to a bigger pond so I can make some splashes.
Well,
world.
Go ahead, Terry.
No, I'm just saying it's a small world. I mean, we're all just like intersecting in each other's lives without really knowing each other. I mean, I interned at the Detroit Free Press, and then I came here. So I know about the D. I know about Jefferson Avenue. Munson has spent a great deal of time with there. Yeah, I know all about, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, we're like kindred spirits. So we were meant to be in this space at this time. So yeah, this is good. This is good.
Well, Rolling Out is my family. So I want y'all to know that. Anytime I got something that's breaking, I'm coming to Rolling Out. Because this is
on to Rolling Out. We're always welcome. But I think the moment that you have made and continue to are going to inspire others. I think that's what I'm admire the most. That you illustrated your valor. That's a beautiful thing. I think you have a moment that most will not have, but one that will be remembered. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about when I saw it. I was like, it just touched my heart to hear your voice breaking, but they won't blame us. They're going to blame us. They're not going to blame you. They're not even going to know you. They're not even going to see you. They're not going to be thinking about you. They're going to be thinking about me. They're going to be thinking about mine. They're going to be thinking because you put BLM. And then you hid your face and you disappeared into the crowd. And what do you call those people, Terry?
Oh, agent provocateurs. And it looked like they were not even afraid, Nia, about any type of physical ramifications. Now, they act like on a regular day basis, before all this went down, they act like they're scared to be in big crowds with Black people. But I noticed how comfortable they were. They weren't worried about being struck at all. And it looked like at the end, there was a guy sitting there waiting on them, protecting them. You know what I'm saying? So it just stinks. It just stinks to high heaven. It just seemed like a setup. Like he said, like Munson said, they were trained. They knew what to do, and they performed their duties, and then they bounced. So, yeah. But we got them on tape.
They were equipped. I mean, that wasn't even a question.
Mm-hmm.
She had already mapped out her attack, and they were executing a plan. And literally, the bigger lady who you confronted had her friend, and it looked like there was one other, but they were all circling, getting done what they needed to do, and then didn't anticipate, but weren't fearless. You know, they weren't fearful. They were just deliberate, very deliberate in destroying and attempting to change the uprising.
Yeah, and because it's documented. See, now, Nia, you and people like Ava DuVernay, y'all got receipts. It can no longer be denied. So they have to talk about it on CNN, and they even have to talk about it on Fox. Like, we got receipts now. See this video right here? We saw y'all infiltrate our movement and try to cause chaos. Then y'all had the police beat us up because y'all thought that we did this. It can't be denied anymore. So the actual thing that they invented for their benefit is benefiting us. It's the great equalizer. So I'm loving that.
But in addition, Terry, it's that other check. Like, when you know that your people did this, we deserve a check.
Yes.
You know, it's not, yes, now you wrote on Starbucks. Starbucks, these people did it against us. We need a check.
Because we protect your building, Starbucks. You know, we protect. I mean, they emailed me and said, you know, Nia, we're going to give you gift cards for coffee. I don't drink coffee.
Well, when I say it, I'm just worried that it's
See, that's what I'm talking about, those trinkets and doodads. We don't want those anymore. We don't want the crumbs that fall from the master's table. That is insufficient to feed us to you know what I'm saying? That's insufficient right now in this day and age. We need the KPIs. We need you to invest in our communities. We need more loans so that we can start businesses and get homes. We don't want that little crumb stuff. Oh, we'll give you a gift card. No, I'm sorry.
But I think the other thing is for you to meet the other Black women at Starbucks. Like, no, I need a meeting with. Like, I think they've had a new diversity person. She probably doesn't know that they were talking about that. Zinga just went over there, but there is Rosalind Brewer is over there. Because I think that this is part of it.
Yes.
So that moves things forward in a way that you can reach out to some other sisters and have some bigger dialogue and more conclusion so that they can know what it meant to you versus somebody, offering coffee or tea or whatever it is when the movement was a bigger conversation with somebody like a Starbucks. And we'd be happy to help whatever you need. If you don't have Nzenga's information, I know that TJ does. And Rosalind Brewer's a huge superwoman over there with superpowers. So I think you guys should talk so that they could know who you are. I think that's a beautiful thing because that's what I saw. Like I saw them. I didn't see, if I don't know the people in the corporation and I don't know the African Americans that are there, I don't see somebody that looks like me and from my culture, then I know you're really not for me because there's nobody here to help interpret me. And you might need several of them to interpret me because you might have one that you've already trained and they've turned parrot and left the culture. So they say what you say. Don't give him no money. Don't give him no money. They become parrots of their cause versus culturally understanding that we're here to really propose a movement that will move us all forward.
Thank you for that. That was great direction. I appreciate that.
But no, I think for us at Rolling Out, having access is everything. If you don't have access to people, the people aren't going to introduce. And I think that's what we've got to say to every big influencer who has 1 million followers. Like, are you influencing something for the community? Point it out for us. Let us know who you're doing business with and stop with the trinkets and popularity gifts while you siphon off money from our community. We've got to say that to ourselves. It is a real challenge. It is a real movement. And we want people to know.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big movement. I think we should work on that and move that forward because I think it's time. It's time. This is just part of the movement, the evolution inside, the evolution that we all understand how to hold each other accountable to move the economic. I understand the injustice on the crime side, but I don't want the economic injustice, which is why we have so much poverty. That they have to be kindred spirits. We can't have separate conversations and all of us be kumbaya broke. I don't want to be kumbaya broke.
I don't want to be kumbaya broke either, Brother Steve.
No, I don't want to be kumbaya broke. I don't want to imagine that my allies have a problem paying me or promote. We don't need happy moments or happy meals. Well, I want to thank you for coming on Rolling Out, the news report. Continue, and we love you. Peace.
I love you all too. Thank you.
Peace.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.